Hi everyone, I now have a 15% off code for neilsgadgets.com. They have tons of lighting, headlamps, batteries, flashlights. If you need things like that, check them out down below at their link. My code knivessportsadventures will give you 15% off pretty much everything on that entire website. Using codes like that are down in my description and links really does help the channel out a lot and helps me bring you lots of fun content like this. On this week's episode of Knives and EDC Gear, we are going to talk about the best flashlights that you can carry on a daily basis. So we're going to talk about the features that these lights should or do have. We're going to talk about how some of the technology involved in these lights makes them miles ahead of others that might look and seem and have similar specifications, but they're really not nearly as good. And then we're also going to take them outside and show you what the light these things produces looks like in the big scary darkness. Ooh. That's what we're doing today. Lots of cool stuff to come. Features, tech, and actual usage outside. Let's get rolling. Let's talk features of lights that you should carry. So I obviously have a lot of lights. I have a lot of EDC lights. I've got convoys, I've got soferns, I've got through nights, I've got some army techs, I've got more. So this is a GT Nano, this is a sofern, this is a ace beam. I got a whole bunch, and a couple of these lights have risen to the top, and I noticed that I carry them a lot more because of the features that they have. So let's talk about what features make for a great EDC light. First of all, an EDC light should be small and easy to carry. After all, it's an EDC item, right? It shouldn't be something that's so big and bulky that it gets in your way. So what I found about even the 18650 convoys or the Army Techs or any of my other ones that were 18650 is I found myself ending up places and I would think my light was in my pocket and it really wasn't because it was just a little too big. So that's when I started to explore these smaller EDC lights. And at first I got a few of them and I didn't like them because the battery life was not good enough. It would go out on me before the end of the day. And that's when I discovered these two lights. So these are both Wurkkoses. Wurkkos did not sponsor this video. I got nothing from them. But I did notice that both of these started ending up in my pocket more. And I realized that that was because they have better battery life. And what makes these lights have better battery life is they have an operating system. So both of these little tiny lights have what we call an Anduril operating system. And I'll get to that more in the tech section. But because of that, they are much more efficient and they run for a longer period of time. Therefore, you can carry them and not run out of battery life, even though they have little 14500 batteries in them. So battery life is a really important feature with EDC lights. Size, we already mentioned, they should be small enough that you put them in your pocket and you don't really have to think about it because they're not bothering you. So size is really important. This, for me, is the ideal size. There might be better size for you if you're a larger or smaller human being, or if you have larger or smaller pockets than I do. But size is really important. I also really value the ability to charge my light easily. So this Wurkkos, this is the this is the headlamp version. This is the HD10, right? It has a USB-C port on it, right? That is fantastic. I think that is necessary for an EDC light. Now, this one, this is the TS10. This is the flashlight version. Does not have a USB port. However, I was able to find a workaround. So LumenTop and Nightcore sells these as well. They sell batteries which have a USB port already on them. This one has a USB-C port. So I don't have to carry an extra charger for these. I recently took this light with me to Europe. I didn't bring a charger. I was able to walk into a convenience store in Europe, buy a USB-C cable, and I could charge my flashlight anywhere in the world. You don't have to have a proprietary anything. This is why I'm not a big fan of the magnetic charging lights like O-lights, because they require you to have a specific cable. And if you forget it at home, you can't charge your light. USB-C is the way to go for charging. Another feature that I like on a US or an EDC light is a pocket clip, right? And you say, well, I don't carry the light on the edge of my pocket. Some people do, some people don't. But when you have a pocket clip on your light, you can put it on your clothing like this, and I can turn that light on and it shines right where I'm going, right? It's shining right in front of me the whole time when I'm using it. I do not have to worry about putting this on a headlamp strap. Now, this can be worn on a headlamp strap. The HD10 actually comes with a headlamp strap. So I can carry this in my pocket. I can wear it as a headlamp. I can actually do the same thing even with the flashlight version, right? The flashlight version will go in this same headlamp strap, and I can put it on the side of my head like this, and I have a headlamp now, right? Is it as convenient as this one? No, but it does work, and it's a very floody light, so it gives me good visibility. I also include that in my feature list for an EDC light. It should be a rather floody light, and this took me a lot of time to figure out. If you have a really focused beam, like on this GT Nano, this is a Lumentop GT Nano. That focused beam is very small, right? It doesn't light up much. So if you're in the dark, all you're gonna see is a little bright spot of stuff. Whereas with these guys, you're gonna get a much larger, wider area where you can see stuff. That's a lot more useful on an EDC light. I like having my spotlights for self-defense. I like having them for being able to see out far distances in the dark because I live out in the country. But they're not as good for EDC lights because they're not as versatile. The other thing that I like a tail switch in a regular flashlight, right? This one does not have a tail switch because it has a magnetic tail cap, and I'm looking for something metal, right? So I can stick this underneath my car while I'm working on it. I can do lots of cool stuff with that because it has a magnetic tail cap, and therefore I feel like it's more versatile, right? Now, you lose that functionality when you go to a tail switch, but on a flashlight like this that doesn't have the 90-degree head, I actually like a tail switch because I can hold the flashlight like this while I'm doing stuff with my hands. I can hold on to something this way, and I can still shine the flashlight ahead of me, and then I can turn it off with my thumb. So I like a tail switch on a flashlight because I don't have to hold it like this. But you know, I don't mind it here on a headlamp. This is better because it gives me the magnetic tail cap. When you have the tail switch, you lose the magnetic tail cap. So that's kind of a plus-minus feature. That is all about features that I really like in EDC flashlights. Now let's talk about technology. The main technology that makes lights like this so much better than similar looking and similar sized flashlights that are much lesser in function is something called Anduril. Now, Anduril is actually an operating system. Yes, these little tiny flashlights are running on an operating system. And what that operating system does is it allows you to do so many things with the flashlight. So I can make this flashlight turn on very low. So if I'm reading a map, or if I don't want to wake up my wife when I'm getting out of the tent at night, or if I don't want to blind myself and ruin my night vision, I can turn on the light to that very low setting very easily. If I want full brightness, I can also get that immediately from the light being off. I can set the light anywhere between those two settings with the hold of a button. I can do cool things like I can make this light flicker like a candle. All right, so it's flickering, gives me a nice romantic glow, right? I can change the brightness of that candle, right? I can do all sorts of strobe functions and other functions just by that one button on this light. Anduril really is the future, and it has an excellent side effect. This is another light that has a similar LED, similar brightness, but it doesn't have Anduril. And you can see what I have to run through is I have to turn the light to every setting, including strobe, before I can turn that light off, right? Or even like this convoy. All right, if I want the light to be a certain brightness, I have to scroll through all the other brightnesses to get it back there, right? So that's just not nearly as convenient, and it's a lot harder to live with. The other excellent side effect of Anduril is because it goes on its own dedicated circuit board, and because of the way that it affects how the battery interacts with the LEDs, it causes the lights to be far more efficient. And I didn't really realize how much this mattered until I had some Soferns and I had a through night small flashlight, little guys, that actually had the same battery in them as these Wurkkos lights. And I noticed that the through nights were all dying after I had them in my pocket for one day. And sometimes they would die halfway through whatever I was doing with them. And then I would take them back and I would charge them. And then I noticed that I had these little Wurkkos lights in my pocket for several days, and they didn't die. And I was using them 3 or 4 times as much, and they were still going, even though they had the same batteries. And the difference is Anduril, because it makes it more efficient. And I don't know exactly how it works, but any Anduril light that I have used in this size lasts a lot longer on the battery. So the technology aspect of these lights makes them far easier to use, makes them batteries last far longer, and they're just a lot easier to live with and deal with because of that. One final feature that I really want to talk about with these Anduril lights is that Anduril has a set of auxiliary lights on these flashlights, and I'll use them in the dark a little bit here so you can see. This one is blue, this one is green, and those LEDs stay on all the time. They do not drain the battery in a significant way. The draw of those LEDs draws less current than the battery's baseline discharge rate, so it's not a significant detriment to the length of the battery life. I have tested that. I left these lights out for weeks with those LEDs on. It doesn't seem to matter. And that's really cool because what happens when you drop your flashlight, right? How many of us have dropped the flashlight in our car, in the footwell, outside when we were walking? It's in the bottom of your backpack, and you can't find it in the dark because it's dark, right? And you got to have another flashlight to find your flashlight. Well, these lights glow. So when you drop them, they glow in the dark and you can see them. And when they're down the footwell of your car, they're glowing green. And the bottom of your bag, you can see them. That little light is one of the best features that these could possibly have. And I didn't like it at first, but I absolutely love it now. You need a light with that feature. I've turned out most of the lights in my studio because I want to demonstrate how having a very low setting can be really useful in the dark, right? I can see small things. I don't have to blind myself. I don't have to ruin my night vision. But if I want you to see me better, all I have to do is ramp up that light. This is where that Anduril operating system comes in really handy. Love these little guys. I can look at the back of my cards. This is my Wallet Ninja multi-tool, right? I can run that light down so you're not blinded and you can read that text, or I can turn it up really high if I want to. Both of these lights are rated at over 1,000 lumens. The headlamp version is rated at 1,200. The TS10, the flashlight version, is rated at 1,400 lumens. Although because it is 3000K, it doesn't really seem to be that much. We're going to take these outside and we'll check them out at distance. Remember me? Now let's check out how these lights do outside here in the dark. EDC lights are frequently used for doing things like going around and checking your property at night, making sure everything is secured. So they need to have a wide variety of brightnesses so that you can see different things without blinding yourself. Both of these do really well for that. This is the Wurkkos TS10. This is the flashlight. Here is the headlamp version. It is in 4000K. You can see the flashlight in 3000K does give a little bit of a yellower tint, which I find nice, although both are a nice neutral white. Both of these are pretty good situational awareness lights. If I'm out here checking what animals might be potentially lurking in the backyard, you can see they both give a nice wide field of view so I can see everything that's out here. This is the headlamp in 4000K. And here is the flashlight in 3000K. The flashlight is not as bright, but to my naked eye, without the camera interfering, it actually resolves colors a little bit better. So both are really nice. And you can see now why I say the flashlight, although it's rated at 1400 lumens, isn't quite as bright as the headlamp in 4000K, even though the headlamp is only rated at 1200. For reference, here is the through night thrower headlamp that I normally use as a reference light for all my light videos. It is brighter, but it has a much more defined spot, so it doesn't give you the same kind of nice situational awareness and easy on the eyes lighting that these other flashlights do. Let's do some distance beam shots. All right, from where I am standing, we have some bushes here at about 15 yards. We've got a shed at about 25, and there's some trees way up in the back there that you can kind of see at 40 yards. That's kind of the visibility we're talking about. This is the HD10 headlamp we're looking at here, the 4000K, and here is the TS10 flashlight. There's the bushes. There's the shed at 25. Not as bright, but again, it's better to my eyes than it is on camera. Trees up there at 40, you probably can't see on the camera. But I get a nice, good picture of what the yard is like in front of me here. You can see the stump there about 10 yards away. There's the stump with the headlamp. Hopefully that gives you a good idea what these look like in the real world. That is this week's episode of Knives and EDC Gear. Hopefully you all enjoyed learning about the features, the technology, and the functionality of these very cool EDC items. If you like this type of content, please leave a comment down below. Please tell me that you like it. Ask me if there's stuff that you want to see. Please subscribe to the video. I'm actually giving a very expensive knife away to one of my subscribers coming up here very soon. So that could be a thing that you are interested in. Share this video if you think anybody would like these, or if you have somebody you'd like to give one of these to as a gift. Enjoy all your EDC gear, and thank you very much for watching.